Crisis 2030, a program that we launched last year to try to make energy systems cleaner, more resilient, more affordable, like geothermal projects in Dominican, St. Kitts and Nevis, solar microgrids in St. Lucia, electric vehicles in Barbados, Jamaica, and Suriname, just to name a few examples. With the additional $20 million that Vice President Harris announced in climate funding just last month in the Bahamas, we'll continue to build together on those efforts. We're working to strengthen disaster preparedness, as you alluded to, and response, improving early warning systems, developing risk maps that predict the areas that are most likely to be hit by storms, helping countries develop new tools to adapt to emerging challenges, as we did, for example, at the Caribbean Water Conference that was co-hosted in Barbados just a few weeks ago. Third, we are working to expand access to international finance. This is something we've heard so powerfully from a number of you, both in Los Angeles and in other meetings. We've heard loud and clear that the scale and disproportionate impact of the climate crisis demands a new approach. We agree. A year ago, Treasury Secretary Yellen and I committed to work with Carriker to make tangible progress toward the goal, not simply recognize the problem, but to actually do something about it. We said that we would press financial institutions to allow countries to defer debt payments in the event of climate shocks and natural disasters. At our urging, the World Bank agreed to offer debt deferment clauses in their loans by 2025. We've made a similar commitment in the United States, urging other lenders to step up with us. And we also know that with new leadership at the World Bank, this is an intense focus for that institution. We said we'd expand assistance to help governments manage the financial risk of disasters. The recent Global Financing Summit in Paris, the World Bank rolled out a disaster risk toolkit that would do just that. We're also supporting the IMF's new Resilience and Sustainability Trust, which is offering concessional financing, loans issued below the market rate, to Barbados and to Jamaica. We're pushing for access to similar financing to countries in the region that are experiencing climate shocks. But we are far from finished. We have a lot more to do on this front. Among other reforms, we need to create financing to help countries caught in another middle-income trap that you all know very well. Those not developed enough to qualify for membership in groups like the G20, and yet too developed to qualify for aid from institutions like the World Bank. These investments are not just necessary to protect against threats, they are once-in-a-generation opportunity to create good-paying jobs in communities across the region. We profoundly see not just the imperative of acting on the threat, but also the opportunity that's involved. They're just one of the ways that we're partnering with you to expand inclusive economic opportunity. This ranges in scale from microloans to entrepreneurs to macro financing for infrastructure. The United States remains the Caribbean's biggest trading partner, something we're very proud of. And for decades, our Congress has given preferential trading status to key industries in countries throughout the region. We're also working to advance other regional and global priorities, from championing our shared commitment to democracy and the rule of law, to supporting free and fair elections in Venezuela through the Mexico City process, to transforming our region's approach to mass migration and displacement, to addressing, as you emphasized, the ongoing crisis in Haiti. And just to say a few words about that. The United States shares the commitment felt throughout the region to help Haitian people shape their future, to restore the country's democratic order through free and fair elections. Haitians cannot achieve these critical goals without security. That's why we've been and remain the largest donor to Haiti's national police, why we support the Haitian government's call for a multinational force to help its police restore security. Lots that we can talk about, and I know we'll talk about over the next day on that front, but this is an area of intense focus for us, and we're determined with you to do everything we can to help Haitian people get it right. The United States is also committed to partnering with you to address growing food insecurity across the region. This is, of course, intensified dramatically in recent years, a combination of climate change, COVID, conflict, including Russia's aggression against Ukraine. According to a recent UN report, one in two people in the Caribbean cannot afford a healthy diet. In response, the United States continues to provide emergency food assistance to parts of the region where people are experiencing acute hunger and malnutrition. Just since February of last year, we contributed an additional $13.5 billion to fight hunger around the world. We remain the World Food Program's largest donor, providing more than 50% of its budget. But at the same time, one of the things I've heard very clearly from talking to so many of our partners is a desire to be able to grow sufficient food to provide for your own people. We're bringing to bear our expertise from across the entire government to help achieve that goal, from the Department of Agriculture to the Environmental Protection Agency, to USAID. Today, I'm pleased to announce that we'll dedicate an additional nearly $5.5 billion to help small farmers in the Caribbean boost productivity, increase access to technology and markets, and adopt climate-smart practices. We're also working together to address another priority that you share, and that is to stem the rising tide of violent crime, taking a devastating toll on communities across the region, especially, we know, young people. It's hurting local business, undercutting foreign investment, eroding the trust of citizens in their governments. Last July, Congress passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. This included new federal provisions that increase criminal penalties to up to 15 years in jail for traffickers and straw purchasers. This is a tool that's vital for holding accountable those who smuggle U.S. arms to the Caribbean. We support the creation of CARICOM's new Crime Gun Intelligence Unit, which is improving information sharing among our law enforcement agencies and strengthening the capacity of countries to investigate gun-related crimes. Just last month, we created a new position in the Department of Justice to deepen collaboration among us on gun prosecutions. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Michael Ben-Ari, a very experienced DOJ prosecutor, will serve as the United States' very first coordinator for Caribbean firearms prosecutions. A half-century ago, when Caribbean nations came together to create this organization, you made the deliberate decision to call it a community. And it's a word that recognizes that to fulfill people's hopes, meet their needs, countries across the region have to work together, and every member has to do their part. I think that's never been more true than it is today, not only for CARICOM members, but also for the United States. We know that our fates are intertwined. We know that to deliver for our people, as Prime Minister Manley said so many years ago, we have to find even more strength in our unity. And the reason that I'm here, the reason that my colleagues are here today on this very powerful occasion is to tell you, to share with you that you can count on America being by your side. As a neighbor, as a partner, as a friend. And as together, we work to genuinely build unity and forge the future of our community, this community that we share, and do it together. So thank you so much for having us here today. We're grateful to be part of this truly historic occasion. Thank you.
We recognize Congressman Jeffries, please.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for your very kind and generous introduction, for your welcome. It's an honor and a privilege to be here at this gathering of the CARICOM heads of government. This is my second international trip as House Democratic leader, but my first in the Western Hemisphere, and it's an honor to touch down in the Caribbean. I want to first acknowledge all the CARICOM heads of government and dignitaries who are here today, including the Secretary General. Thank you for your leadership of this incredibly important multilateral organization. Secretary of State Blinken, thank you for your phenomenal representation of the Biden-Harris administration on the global stage and all that you are doing to strengthen the relationship between the United States and the Caribbean region. Since January, I've had the opportunity of serving as House Democratic leader. in Congress over the last 5+ terms. I represent the 8th Congressional District in Brooklyn, proudly home to one of the largest Caribbean American communities in the nation. Indeed, on any given weekend back at home, particularly during the summer months, you can hear calypso, soca, reggae, or dancehall, and think that you are on an island nation. I want to introduce the U.S. Congressional delegation that's joining me here today, a distinguished group of members of the House of Representatives, Representative Radwagen of American Samoa, a leading Republican voice. Someone very familiar with the challenges that face island nations. Representative Gregory Meeks, who of course needs no introduction. Top Democrat and a leader in strengthening the relationship between the United States and the Caribbean. Representative Horsford of Nevada, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Representative Yvette Clarke of New York, the first vice chair. Fellow Brooklynite and a powerful member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, and of course someone who proudly hails from the island nation of Jamaica. Representative Joyce Beatty of Ohio, the immediate past chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and a leader on the Financial Services Committee, particularly on issues related to international financial institutions and sovereign debt. And Representative Castro of Texas, the top Democrat on the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee and former chair of the influential Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Members of the delegation are all leaders who are committed to a strong partnership with CARICOM. Thank you to Prime Minister Rowley for hosting us here in Trinidad and Tobago. What an honor and a privilege to join you on this 50th anniversary celebration of CARICOM. This is a historic moment as we celebrate the founding treaty signed here 50 years ago and renew a commitment to being the best possible neighbors to each other. The region is stronger because of multilateral partnerships like the one forged by CARICOM 5 decades ago. And our collective future will be brighter because of the continued relationships that bind this organization together. Our trip to CARICOM builds on the historic Summit of the Americas hosted by President Biden and Vice President Harris in Los Angeles, and on efforts by Vice President Harris to engage with leaders of CARICOM throughout the Caribbean over the past year, most recently in the Bahamas. Let me reiterate on behalf of our congressional delegation our unshakable commitment to the financial health, security, and economic well-being of the Caribbean region. We are here to make clear that the CARICOM nations are not an afterthought. We value this relationship. We are neighbors. We have shared democratic values. We have mutual security concerns. We have common economic interests. And we are stronger together. On the issue of Haiti, we are committed to working together to decisively address the security, economic, and humanitarian crisis that exists in a manner that credibly and authentically is guided by the Haitian people. In addition to dealing with the crisis in Haiti, let me just briefly touch on 3 areas: economic growth and development, regional security and public safety, and energy and the climate crisis. As a congressional delegation, we are determined to make sure Caribbean nations have access to the capital that you need to grow and prosper. We want to help facilitate the continued development of a thriving, market-based economy. And we want to help you address the sovereign debt issues that serve as a constraint to investment in a manner that is fair and equitable. Further support the region in both the 2022 and 2023 fiscal years, Congress appropriated over $80 million for the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative and an additional tens of millions for new initiatives to promote inclusive economic growth, strengthen resilience to natural disasters, and for the Caribbean Energy Initiative. And we look forward to doing more. It's also important that we focus on your very real security concerns and enhance public safety in the region. Indeed, public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. In that regard, we are committed to enhancing cooperation and information sharing between our respective law enforcement agencies, including through the crime gun intelligence units that was mentioned by the Secretary. We must disrupt the gun trafficking and violent crime plaguing the region by stopping the shipments of arms and holding gun traffickers accountable to the full extent of the law. This includes building on historic legislation passed by the United States Congress and signed into law by President Biden last year, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, that for the first time in American history makes drug purchasing and gun trafficking federal crimes. This legislative tool will help us help you deal with the rising tide of gun violence many of your nations unfortunately confront. Lastly, we want to make sure that the energy needs of the Caribbean are met in a manner that is both reliable and sustainable. At the same time, our country is of course committed to addressing the climate crisis with the fierce urgency of now. We began that process passage of the historic Inflation Reduction Act, the largest effort that any country has ever undertaken to combat the climate crisis in the history of the world. But we know that more must be done. In that regard, a key pillar of our collective effort will be the U.S.-Caribbean Partnership to Address the Climate Crisis 2030, the Biden-Harris administration launched last year. The United States and other developed nations have disproportionately contributed to greenhouse gas emissions and the rise of extreme weather events and the climate crisis throughout the world. We recognize that it is our responsibility to be a big part of the solution. Thank you for extending this invitation to our congressional delegation. We look forward to a comprehensive, clear-eyed, and candid discussion of the issues we collectively confront. A lot has been accomplished by CARICOM over the past 50 years, but we know there is still a lot of work to do for the benefit of our shared neighborhood in the Western Hemisphere. Together, I am confident that through our ongoing cooperation and collaboration, that the best is yet to come. Congratulations on your 50th anniversary celebration.
Thank you very much to the Secretary of State. As they would say, thanks to the gentleman from New York. I think we would ask the media to excuse themselves so that we can continue the conversation.